everybody, Arglefumph here with another vlog video. Today I'm going to be answering two questions from Katie V, who sponsors me on Patreon. Thank you very much, Katie. Her first question is one I get all the time. If I could make a Nancy Drew game, what would it be about? So I've thought about it. I've got two different answers. I'd like to try something along the lines of Return to Shadow Ranch, a sequel to the Shadow Ranch video game. I don't think they've done any sequels besides for Secrets Can Kill Remastered, and that's not really a sequel. So part of the reason I want to do a sequel to Secret of Shadow Ranch, besides for the fact that it's a popular game, is the fact that there are actually two different books. We've got this book from 1965, and there's also a Shadow Ranch book from 1931, the original book, and it's got kind of a different storyline. Bess and George have a cousin named Alice, whose father has gone missing. I think there's a man with amnesia who ends up being the missing father. There's also this orphan girl who has horrible guardians, and Nancy needs to save the girl. And, you know, so we've got a Nancy Drew at Shadow Ranch book with three different storylines which weren't in the Shadow Ranch video game. I think that is an avenue they could explore. They could totally make another Shadow Ranch game, go through those other storylines, maybe even make up some new storylines of their own, you know, and just see all those various characters again. I think it would be cool. And similarly, I was thinking about game number 30, which is the Shattered Medallion. It's supposed to be based on The Amazing Race, but there's sort of a difference between The Amazing Race and the game. In the TV show, they go to a bunch of different countries, like France and England and Germany. But in the game, they just sort of stay in New Zealand. They go to New Zealand and they stay there. So I was thinking, what if Nancy did a world tour in that game, in the Shattered Medallion? What if she went to England and she went to Blackmore Manor and she met Jane, who's now a teenager, and she goes to France and she meets Minette and Heather and all those characters from the game in France, and, you know, she can go to Canada, she can go to St. Louis, she can revisit all these various locations from previous games and meet these old characters, the fan favorite characters, see what they're up to. I think that would have been a cool idea, a good way to have game number 30 just sort of be like just this total fan favorite game with all these old characters, and hey, they'd save a lot of money on, you know, animation and, you know, scenery, because they wouldn't have to reanimate all these various places. So, that was just an idea I had, something they could do. So basically, I'm just trying to say sequel game. If I could make a Nancy Drew game, I think I would make a sequel game. Whether it's, you know, just for Secret of Shadow Ranch, where it's just this grand game which covers all these various games, or The Silent Spy, I feel, was also one that could do with the sequel. That would be a good one, too. I also wouldn't be opposed to revisiting the older Nancy Drew games. You know, just, you know, remaster them, do them in HD. I think that could be cool. Or, you know, even make some games which are sort of along the lines of those older games. Because people really like the older games. So, you know, I don't think that making games like those would be a bad idea. So the second question that Katie had was about the new Nancy Drew TV show. So let me tell you all about this in case you haven't heard. So, NBC is trying to make a Nancy Drew TV show, and the premise is sort of like Murder, She Wrote. I haven't seen Murder, She Wrote, but I'm pretty sure this is Murder, She Wrote. The storyline is that our hero is Nancy Drew / Carolyn Keene. They haven't really decided on the name yet, but it's the woman who wrote the Nancy Drew books. And, you know, she wrote the Nancy Drew books when she was younger. Now she's this older woman, and she stumbles across a real-life murder mystery. Ooh! So she has to solve the murder mystery. She's written tons of detective books. Can she solve this mystery? In order to solve the mystery, she needs help from her friends Bess and George. However, Bess and George aren't really her friends. They kind of dislike her because she kind of made them stupid in the Nancy Drew books. Bess is scared of everything. George is super clumsy. That's what it's like in these earlier Nancy Drew books. So her friends kind of hate her, so she's forced to team up with the friends who dislike her because, well, she made them stupid and she made herself perfect. Because Nancy's basically perfect in these older Nancy Drew books. So, you know, I think it's kind of a fun idea. You know, Nancy is forced to team up with her old friends who kind of have a grudge, kind of don't. I'm sure as the series goes on, they become best friends again, and so on. So they haven't actually made this TV show yet. They're very much in the planning phases. I'm sure what they're going to do is just write out a pilot episode and then film it, and then maybe it'll get picked up. I know a couple of years ago, CBS tried to do a Nancy Drew TV show. One where she's in New York, she's working for the NYPD, and she's solving mysteries there. They filmed a pilot, but it didn't get picked up by any TV networks, so that was basically the end of that show. So now NBC is trying its hand at doing a Nancy Drew show. You know what? I am tentatively excited about this show. It seems like an interesting premise. So did the previous Nancy Drew TV show, but that didn't make it on the air. So I just hope that this TV show does get made and that it's super awesome and it makes Nancy Drew popular again and everybody starts buying Nancy Drew stuff, and so Her Interactive makes a ton of money and they can make the next Nancy Drew game a lot sooner. That would be great. That would be good. I would totally love to write for this TV show. I would also love to write for the Nancy Drew books. It's probably never going to happen. They're probably not going to hire some random guy on YouTube to do writing, especially since I've done a bunch of book reviews, and some of them are not so nice because some of the books are not so good. So, yeah. Anyway, that would be a dream job for me. And if I could write a Nancy Drew book, I would do something similar along the lines of a sequel. I would write Return to Shadow Ranch, or I'd probably do a rewrite of Nancy Drew's Secret of the Old Clock too. Just because, we're on Nancy Drew series number 5, 6. They've had a ton of Nancy Drew book series. So, it'd be interesting to see how you could tie in the current book series to the original book series. Because, fun fact, they don't. They don't. Modern Nancy Drew books have very little in common with the old Nancy Drew books, besides for the fact that they have a character named Nancy Drew who solves mysteries. That's basically all they have in common. Another weird thing about these old books, the culprit is usually pretty obvious in the old books. I mean, if somebody's mean and evil and nasty, they're the culprit. It's usually not a mystery. It's sort of like watching the old Scooby-Doo episodes where people say it's a great mystery, but really it's not. The culprit is the one evil, nasty guy that they talk to every single time. It's always the bad guy is the bad guy. So not so much of a mystery. More modern Nancy Drew books, I think starting with the 80s, they really started having multiple suspects, trying to make it more mysterious. Anyway, I'm babbling. Okay, so I think that's going to be it. Thank you very much to Katie V for sponsoring me on Patreon and sending in those questions. Just to recap, if I had to make my own Nancy Drew game, I would try to make a sequel game. Just because some of these Nancy Drew characters are so fantastic, and some of these games have great locations. I just love to revisit some of them. And what do I think about the Nancy Drew TV series? I'm hesitantly excited for it. Hopefully it ends up being made, unlike the other Nancy Drew TV series did. So, that's it. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I'm gonna go get a haircut now. Seriously, I was gonna do like a Sunny June hairstyle for Halloween, but I can't do the Sunny Dew. Is that what we call Sunny's hairdo? Yeah, I can't do the Sunny June hairdo. I'm sorry. I could make it purple though. That would look awesome. Ooh, that's close. That's close. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's totally Sunny right there.